Hello, Mark from Sound Matters here, talking all things vinyl as always. Now, I've been receiving the VMP Essentials and VMP Classics releases for about 2 years now. So a couple of years down the line, do I think a subscription to VMP is worth it? What are some of the pros and cons? What have been some of my favourite releases, my not so favourite releases? I'm going to get into the nitty gritty on this and try and determine if it's right for you. Let's get straight into the video. So VMP, or Vinyl Me Please, for those of you who don't know, and if you're watching this video, there's a very good chance that you do know, but for those who don't, they are essentially one of the biggest record clubs out there. They've been going just over 10 years now, and they break down their subscription into several categories, starting with kind of classics, which is all your jazz, your blues, your funk, your soul records, all that kind of side of things. Then there's the Essentials range, which is incredibly broad, so keep an open mind for this one. This could be pretty much any category, and it's records that VMP regard as being essential to any complete record collection. There's also hip hop if your taste is more specific. You've got country as well if you're very much into your country music, and then there's now, this is actually a new one over the last few months, but VMP rock, so very much guitar driven rock music, which I think has been missing. Some of the Essentials covered some of this over the years, but I think really a VMP rock subscription is a welcome addition. So just to demonstrate just how broad the Essentials range can be, these are some of the more recent records released on the Essentials subscription. Anything from Ray Barretto to Santi Gold, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Death Cab for Cutie, Sly and the Family Stone, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you've got Sublime, you've got Air, you've got Bob Dylan, you've got the Beastie Boys, Interpol, Bruce Springsteen, who else? Bright Eyes, Justice I should say rather, Modest Mouse and Aaliyah. That is an incredibly broad range of genres. So as you can see, you really do need to have an open mind in terms of your musical taste to get what you want out of the Essentials range. However, it's important to say that if you see a record that you're really not feeling, you can swap it out for one of the other releases from the other categories. They give you the option to swap before they send it out to you. Just briefly as well, to give you an idea with the classics range, you've got to keep a pretty open mind, but it is a little bit more locked down in terms of the genres that it covers. So anything from David Porter to Thelonious Monk, we've got Odetta, we've got Miles Davis, Dinah Washington, Dizzy Gillespie, Johnny Walker, John Coltrane, there's Sylvester, quite a range there, but again covering the blues, jazz, soul, funk, that kind of side of things. It's important to note that actually all of the classics range are very much focused on being audiophile pressings. They're almost always labelled as AAA releases and cut from wherever possible the original analog master tapes. And it's 9 times out of 10 it's Ryan Smith at Sterling Sound who cuts these records, and I must say every single one that I've received is an incredible job. With the Essentials releases, there's much more of a focus on the exclusive coloured vinyl versions that they release, but regardless of whether it's Essentials or Classics, there's always a very strong focus on the quality of the board, the artwork board that it's all printed on, and the booklets that they release and everything that comes with it. There's always a strong focus on quality. So I've gone and picked 3 of my highlights from both the Essentials and the Classics release over the last couple of years. Undoubtedly, if you're subscribed, you'll have picked different albums to me, so I'd be keen to hear what your pick would be if you are subscribed down in the comments of this video. First on my list, starting with the Essentials, is The Doors. Now, this was one of the first records I received from VMP, and what a way to start. It's an absolute classic, isn't it? And this is a mono reissue of the album, and I did a full kind of classic albums feature on this album, which I will pop in the top corner of this video and in the description, of course, as well. But you didn't just get the album, you also got a really nice 7-inch single version of Light My Fire, which is on clear vinyl. And also I still really love the art print that came with this particular release, which is like a pop art style art print, which I've still got behind me in every single video that I record. It's probably one of the best of the art prints that I've received that come with each and every VMP Essentials release. Next up, I picked the Meters Rejuvenation, and my experience with the Meters until this record went about as far as their single Sissy Strut, and also a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover of the song Africa. And I tell you what, there's just so much more to the meters. I'm really glad I have this album, and I can't see myself I can't imagine not having this album in my collection now. It's just become such a firm favourite within my household. Actually, this particular version of this record, it is an AAA release, despite being one of the VMP Essentials, which is normally what I associate with the VMP Classics releases. It was cut by Ryan Smith as well at Sterling Sound, who is a really great mastering engineer. And yeah, it's just, God, what a feel-good album. Some might say that New Orleans funk is the best kind of funk. Go get yourself a copy. It comes on beautiful yellow vinyl. You won't regret it. Next up is Thin Lizzy Jailbreak, and this beautiful gatefold release of this is just absolutely stunning, with the mirror style artwork and the way that the liner notes slot in to the hole cutout television to kind of complete the cartoon. It's so ostentatious 1970s album art, isn't it? And the orange vinyl that it comes with as well really makes the whole thing pop and stand out as a gatefold release. Really nice copy from VMP. Musically, I think this album really just represents that sweet spot in terms of bridging from the 1960s and 70s rock into the 1980s, where things like real big bombastic harmonized guitar solos, stadium filling guitar solos kind of started to come in, but it was still at a kind of tasteful level before it just went a little bit too far for me as we go into the 80s. Now, I said I was going to do 3, but I just can't resist mentioning the most recent VMP Essentials release, which is Ray Barretto Acid. Now, this is an example of, I think, VMP at their best. I never would have picked this record up in a million years, but here I was a week after opening it, and I must have span it around about 10 times in that week. It is very much a Latin-focused record. The musicianship on it is absolutely superb. There's elements of kind of jazz and avant-garde in there too, but I would just say, it's just such a great record from a musicianship perspective, and it's just what you need to lift the spirit as we go into the darker nights. Pick up a copy, you'll love it, I promise. Moving on to VMP Classics, the first one I've picked is Dizzy Gillespie, Afro. This is very much in the camp of Afro-Cuban jazz. So this is a genre, a bit of a fusion genre. Think kind of Afro-Cuban Latin rhythm meets American jazz solos and musicianship and virtuosity, all that kind of side of things. It's become a real firm favourite on Friday nights. What a feel-good record. I never would have discovered this album if it were not for VMP Classics. So I'm very much thankful for that. An interesting fact about Dizzy Gillespie is that in 1953, the year before this album was recorded, he threw a party for his wife, and in an accident, his trumpet got damaged, got bent to almost a 45-degree angle. But he loved the sound of it so much that he had a custom 45-degree angle trumpet horn made, and that became part of his kind of signature sound, and you can hear that on this record. Check it out, you'll love it. Next up on the classics list is Dinah Washington, For Those in Love. Now, this has become a firm favourite on relaxed Sunday afternoons, and it features instrumental arrangements by Quincy Jones, and it really does a superb job of showing off the versatility of Dinah's voice. She was the self-proclaimed, if you like, queen of blues, and until I heard this album, my experience of her catalogue pretty much went as far as her rendition of What a Difference a Day Makes. Now, after hearing this album, I don't think this will be the last album of hers to grace my collection. Absolutely superb jazz vocalist, and I think, it's just one of those really comforting records that you just keep coming back to because it just makes you feel good. One of the things I really like about VMP Classics in particular is how they very much champion underrated or lesser known artists, and this last one very much comes under that category. It's Black Nasty's Talking to the People, which I've featured quite a lot in some of my reviews of late as a bit of a test subject for listening to new turntables and preamps. I just love the way this record sounds. Perhaps it's just because I'm a sucker for funk music, but there's somewhat of a rock edge edge to this as well. There's a rawness to it. There's a punchiness to the entire production and the album and the music itself. You know, it's perhaps a lower budget version of some of the 70s funk that was released. This is from 1973, and yeah, I just love the rawness of this record. Turn it up loud, you won't regret it. So, 2 years down the line, is it still worth it, and is it right for you? I've discovered so much music outside of my comfort zone through VMP. It's hard to deny just how much of a positive impact it's had on my musical horizons. That said, it's not for everyone, and there will always be those who prefer to allocate their funds towards their local record store. But VMP are not really trying to compete with your local record store, to be perfectly honest with you. They serve a different purpose. For example, when I visit my local record store, I tend to levitate towards my comfort zone musically, so there's less of an inclination to pick up something at random or even try a new genre. This is not to say that I no longer visit record stores, I absolutely do, but what I've gained from VMP is something much more serendipitous. Sure, record clubs aren't necessarily cheap, but then again, nothing in the record collecting world is really. I mean, this is not a poor man's hobby, that's for sure. If you can spare the money and you can also keep an open mind, then VMP is undoubtedly going to deliver some of the highest quality reissues that you have seen. I would say, in my 2 years experience with VMP, that quality control issues have been remarkably rare, though occasionally, unfortunately, they do happen. Most of the very few issues that I encountered appeared to happen during shipping. For example, one record arrived with the disc where the disc had kind of bored a hole into the top of the outer jacket, which you'll all know is an all too common issue for, shipping damage. I have no serious complaints about the pressing quality, with only one record that had a minor surface noise issue in the opening few bars of the album. In an age where record collectors are frequently complaining about the quality control in the record industry, I found VMP to be a breath of fresh air. If I had to pick a favourite between the Essentials and the Classics would just about pip to the post, simply because I've loved discovering jazz and soul music so much. With the Essentials, there is always going to be the odd month here or there where the release just simply isn't going to be your bag. Or is it? Sometimes it's worth giving something you expect not to like a go. Keep an open mind, and you might just surprise yourself. So that concludes my take on a VMP subscription, but now it's over to you. Let me know your thoughts and experience down in the comment section as always. And if you'd like to support this channel, please, before you go, check out the description of this video, where as always, there's a whole bunch of discount codes on products to feed your vinyl hobby, including Groove Washer record cleaning kits, 12-inch record display systems, and vinyl storage solutions sleeves. In my opinion, the best sleeves you can buy on the market. There's also vintage vinyl available from Vinyl Pursuit. So check that out in your own time. I earn a very small commission from anything that you might buy with my codes at no extra cost to you, and I appreciate your support. If you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing, and until that next video, make sure you keep spinning and enjoy the music.